So hi, everyone that's in the room. This is a little bit weird because I feel like I should see at least some faces or at least little circles, but we'll go forward. So thanks a lot for joining the session today. I am the Alliance Manager for the Acumatica partnership here at Avid, as well as the Acumatica partner ecosystem. So I work with a lot of the same folks that you are probably working with on your Acumatica processes and improving it. As the session title indicates, what we wanted to talk about today and just spend, maybe 15, 20 minutes on is what do we see happening out there in the market from the perspective of AP, and what are the ways now that AP has digital transformation has sort of come to the forefront and percolated to the top of many lists now. What is it that you want to be looking for, and what are some of the things, because we've been in this industry for a long time, and just some of the things that we can share with you. And then when we're done with that, I think we'll just I'll do a really quick high-level overview of what Avid includes. If you want more information, we're more than happy to get you that and get you to do a deeper dive. And then certainly we'll have Q&A as well. So I think it is, I don't think a day goes by where I haven't read something or there's some story about how the pandemic has accelerated leadership, middle market companies' digital transformation. And when I hear the digital transformation word, it kind of scares me a little bit, because I feel like maybe you're at the bleeding edge of things. You're doing new things. And I think what it really means is just trying to automate as many processes as you can, especially back office processes, to support what's happening in the market today, which is from how people want to work, working from home, working from anywhere, in addition to reducing risk and being ready from a business continuity perspective. And I think where AP, the good news for automating AP is that this is not on the bleeding edge, that in fact, there's been solutions out there for many years. Avid's been, providing AP automation solutions to the middle market for 15, 20 years. So these are tried and true systems. It's just the thing that's happened by the pandemic is it just raised those up higher on the list, on the priority list to get done. I think also what we've seen, obviously from the pandemic, is that the leadership is also trying to take a look and automate as many processes and kind of march through that as quickly as possible. Another reason I think AP is at the top, again, because it's been out there, people have looked at it. Now's just the time that they're going to take some action. So we've identified what we think are 8 best practices or concepts around preparing for the future, for AP future. So I'm just going to go through them. I'm not going to read them here. The first, so we use this word automate AP. What does that mean? I mean, some people view that as just your invoice processing. Some people view that from procurement to invoicing. Some people also include it to the payment process. And so what Avid suggests, and what our view of this is that automating AP is automating the whole part of it, from the invoice receipt all the way through to the payment part of it. And that, the obvious risks of eliminating the paper, which is kind of like, you hear everybody talk about that. The obvious benefit of eliminating the paper is what we're going to talk about next. But when you eliminate the paper, so when you eliminate the paper, one of the first things, or one of the whole reasons that you want to automate, is you want to reduce manual labor. And by that, it's you want to eliminate as many people and resources, those expensive resources, you want to eliminate them from the process. And free them up to do better things, free them up to do more, to contribute more to the company, to improve processes. And also, though, what we see is when you are thinking about eliminating the paper from an invoice perspective all the way through to pay, that you really have to think about, there's like a continuum of how you're going to do that, and what all manual processes you're going to eliminate. Because there's everything from, you can receive the invoices, you can scan them, they become PDFs. Maybe you have a process today that's automated because you're emailing PDFs around for approval. But there's lots of different steps that still you want to take a look at it and get rid of all of those, as many as you can, of the places where there's people involved, and automate as much as possible. Another reason for one of the advantages, I think, of being able of automating, and especially using a cloud solution, is that you are able to, there's two things. One is you reduce your risk because you're not responsible for the security and all of the protections that are in place, that need to be in place, especially like if you're maintaining banking information, all of that. That's now offloaded to your provider, to your cloud provider. And while I know that it can be, you can say, oh, well, there's some risk there, but that's where, again, I think the benefit of people, companies like Avid, where we have been in this market for a while, we have we have very sophisticated practices, very sophisticated infrastructure. We've invested in that. We have our money transmitter license, so we're regulated like a bank. And so you're able to take advantage of what we have to have in place for security. I think the other piece is that it gives you an opportunity to also, again, take some of that off of your plate of having to maintain certain pieces of information. So, for example, I'm just going to use one, ACH, right? Automating payments, you can use ACH. Everybody's heard about that with their bank. But one of the things that's still manual about that is that you have to maintain that data, the banking information in your systems. There's risk and there's manual work. You have to secure that information, again, risk as well as time and effort. So what you want to look for is really a solution that's going to that's got the sophisticated infrastructure in place, and that, quite frankly, is more of a full service model as opposed to just doing pieces of what the automation might be. Looking at all of those places where you have to have humans involved, and automating that or offloading it as much as possible. I think too, I just want to take another look into just a deeper dive into what this means by, eliminating the paper, because I think everybody says it. But if you look at it from an invoice ingestion perspective, again, there's one thing to receive those invoices as PDFs, they're electronic, right? But it's also handling all of the exceptions that are going to happen because, yes, it's still paper, or these are email PDFs. And so once you receive that paper, you've eliminated it perhaps because it's now a PDF, but it still needs to go through a process where you're capturing that data, the key data elements off of it. It has to then get workflowed into the right hands so that it gets approved. And again, there's exception handling. What happens when you didn't get all that data? What happens when it didn't get to the right person? And so by looking at the invoice ingestion as a full service, where are all those places? By offloading, quite frankly, what is a very manual process, right? You get paper, somebody has to look at it, somebody has to get the data off of it, even if it's technology, somebody has to validate it, and those don't go away. Those are still steps that have to be done. It's just that you're able to put it in the hands of somebody else. And again, people who are very familiar with invoice processing, what do invoices look like? I mean, one of the things that Avid brings to the table is that because we've been doing this for so long in the invoice space, like there's nothing we haven't seen, right? There's no invoice, that we haven't seen and been able to figure out how to capture that data and have processes around it. Maintain accurate reporting. This is, I think, an example of where it is that you could deploy those resources that you've freed up because you've automated as much as you can. So here's an example of, so what would those folks do? Well, with history of your payments to various suppliers, they can look at that history and then use that in negotiations, or use that to earn maybe better payment terms, maybe longer payment terms, or perhaps some discounts, early pay discounts. And because you're able to, they are able to have the time to look at that data and then also have that conversation and negotiation with your suppliers, they are able to, again, use their time and put it on higher value tasks, really contribute. And the other thing that we heard during the pandemic was that folks who had been using Avid, they were able to, because they could demonstrate to key suppliers that they were paying on time, they were good, they were timely, they were good buyer-supplier relationship. They were able to negotiate with key suppliers to say, hey, look, we need longer payment terms now. We need, instead of 60 days, can we have 90 days because of the pandemic? And the suppliers felt much more comfortable doing it because they had that data that they were, and the buyer was much more comfortable asking for it because that data was available. Another example of what those folks could be doing with their time is, you have contracts that say this is how you're supposed to, get paid. This is when you get paid. The terms and conditions of your contract that, people spend a lot of time negotiating. And one of the other things that people would be available for is to be able to say, okay, let me do an audit. Are we paying per the contract? Are they adhering to the contract? Are there opportunities to improve what those terms are? The other thing that I think that we feel is a benefit of automating AP, or one of the outcomes, I guess, one of the good outcomes of it is during the process of doing your automation project, you're going to go through your process as it is today, and you're going to identify opportunities, not just to enhance and make it more efficient, but maybe some holes in the process, maybe some areas where, oh, there was risk there and I didn't realize that. And so you're able to fix those during this automation process through workflows and so forth. And so at the end of that, you have a better system in place. You didn't just automate what you had in place before. I think too, the other advantage is as you bring in new people, because you've encoded your process, that instead of having to have them, go look at information written down, or instead of having to depend on tribal knowledge that gets passed, it's encoded in your process, in your system, and so they're gonna follow your process because that's how the system is guiding them. And then another thing to look for, or opportunity with automating, is that you can enable your suppliers to be self-service, just for like routine type things, right? Like, where's my payment? When did it get sent? What's the status of that payment? So instead of your staff or somebody handling those emails from suppliers, they're able to go in, and even if it's at midnight when they're doing their books, or doing their work, their admin work, they're able to go in and see the status of certain payments. And then the calls are reserved for those things that actually need, a real conversation. And I think finally, the thing that I don't know why that's highlighted anyway, is that, so when you're automating AP, there's the invoice piece of it, but don't stop at the invoice piece. You want to continue and finish that entire AP process. I can't tell you the number of people I've talked to where, yeah, they've automated invoice, but then they have this problem of now they have to get checks cut, or again, they have put in place like some ACH process that they're manually managing. And so by expanding your view and saying, yes, it's the invoice to payment, you're able to get further advantages. And I think too, with including your payment, you want to take a broader view of what that means to automate payments. There's B2B payments is very complicated. It sounds easy, like you can look at a flow chart, but there's a million different exceptions that happen, things that happen that you need to think about and then have people in place. It's still today, given the state of technology and our banking rails and so forth, that it's still pretty manual, quite frankly. And so there's still a service component to that executing those payments can be, again, complicated and you need services to help actually get them executed timely and accurately. And so that's where you want to, again, look at where are all those places that I am spending my time chasing down payments or trying to follow up on seeing why a supplier hasn't cashed a check, something like that. So in addition to just getting rid of the check itself, right, which everybody realized during the pandemic was an issue, right, because the CFO is bringing home the check printer, or worse, people have to go in the office and potentially put themselves at risk or put the company at risk in order to get payments received and processed. So automating it does that. It takes care of that, but it also allows you to optimize taking more and more off of your plate if you look at it from a full service perspective, which is how obviously I'm talking about it. So that's how Avid looks at it. There's a lot more to B2B payments than just getting ACHs through the door. And we've learned that over 12 years in the middle market. We have a combination of very sophisticated technology as well as a world-class operations team that is constantly looking at how to improve payment execution in both technology and people and services and processes. So what I'll do now is I just want to, how am I doing on time there?
Good, 15 minutes.
Oh, that's what I expected. That's what I wanted. So let me I'll do a quick overview of AvidXchange. Again, this is pretty high level. And so we can definitely take a deeper dive, talk about your specific workflows or your specific environment and what kinds of invoices you receive and that kind of thing, your suppliers. We have a capability to do a vendor analysis, but that's, next step if you want to take that deeper dive. So Avid's approach to this situation is there are two Avid capabilities, if you will, or solutions. There's the invoice process piece, and then there's also the payment process piece. And in the middle is acuCONNECT, or as your system of record. So this Avid understands that the accounting system is, paramount, right? That's where you're going to produce your financial reports from, and that's where you're going to get audited. And so we're complementing and enhancing what your accounting system is already doing for you, but that still remains your system of record. And so just, briefly, the invoices, as if you think of it as the front end process, once those invoices get approved, you guys say it's ready to pay. There's a, you initiate the payments or you initiate that approval, and then that gets integrated into acuCONNECT, into the AP system. And then you continue to use acuCONNECT to initiate the actual payments. When you're ready to pay it, that's when you'll say to acuCONNECT, okay, now I'm ready to pay this bill. And so that stays the same. When you pay, when the cash leaves, that remains the same. That's exactly how you do it today. And then when you initiate those payments, then they go off to Avid Pay. The Avid Pay process includes, or I want to say solution really, includes technology. There's a portal, client-facing, buyer-facing portal where you can see the status of payments, run some reports. There's also a supplier portal where the supplier can go in and check the status of payments. And then there's also a network, which we call the Avid Pay network, of about 700,000 middle market vendors. And also there's the services that we talked about before. Again, we have a world-class operations team with folks who are every day, that's their job, is to find ways to improve those processes. So real quickly, just from an invoice perspective, what problem Avid Invoice is going to solve is from receipt of the invoice down through approval and saying, yep, I'm ready to pay. Now go put it in my in Acumatica. And so before automation, these are some of the steps. These are the places where people have to touch and get involved. And when you're done, these are the steps that you're left with. Folks are going to code, they're going to approve, and then they're going to select for payment. And then the Avid Pay process, again, is once it's in Avid Pay and you've said, yep, now I want to go pay it, the Avid Pay part of that process is that we're going to take a look at what's already in our network, the suppliers who are already in our network. If they're in the network, then we have all the information we need to go get that paid in the way that they want to be paid. If they're not already in our network, we have a part of our services is a supplier enrollment team. The supplier enrollment team will reach out to that supplier, find out, how do they want to get paid? There's a couple of options, which I'll talk about. Typically, we found, especially during the pandemic, that people receiving payments, they don't want to go in the office either, right? They don't want to have to open checks and get them over to the bank. They wanted an electronic payment methodology method. And so we saw a real increase in suppliers, even the small guys who maybe don't have credit card or can't accept a credit card, but they chose to use our APD method, which is another electronic payment option. In addition, there is the option for you, if you wanted to have some additional controls on when that check gets sent, we can go ahead, you can use those if you want as well. Once you've said, yep, now we're going to go pay it, that's when Avid is going to pull the money from your bank account. It's going to go into an Avid controlled bank account. Again, I think I mentioned earlier, we have money transmitter licenses in all 50 states, very regulated, very secure. And then we're going to go make those payments based off of, again, how that supplier decided to get paid. The supplier has a couple of options. One is via MasterCard or virtual card. If that supplier is already already has a merchant agreement and they're able to accept a credit card, many of them say, yeah, that's the way I want because I get it in a couple of days and it's in my bank account. I don't have to open anything. I don't have to go to the bank. The other is if it's a smaller supplier, potentially maybe they can't take a credit card, or for whatever reason they say they don't want to pay that way, we offer them an alternative, which we call Avid Pay Direct. It's a direct deposit into their bank account. And with that also, they get remittance data that allows them to account for that, if you will, and reconcile that much quicker because it's very clear and it comes via email, I believe. And then finally, if neither of those are appropriate or the supplier decides they don't want that, then we will issue a check. The other advantage of the services that we provide from the check perspective is there is also it's an algorithm that we use that says, okay, these are suppliers that typically take too long to cash checks. So we're going to go follow up with them if they haven't cashed it in, I think it's 10 days, something like that. It's not 10 days, that's too soon. I'm sorry, it's 90 days. If they haven't cashed it in 90 days, then we're going to go follow up with them. And with utilities, we do it sooner. Okay, I have 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. So that's it. That's Avid Pay, Avid Invoice. So thank you there. Does anybody have questions or can I, is there anything in the chat? Can we check that? Let's check. Okay. I don't think so.
No.
If you guys do have questions, make sure you stop by our virtual booth. If you're interested in a customized demo, there is a landing page in our virtual booth. We're happy to kind of walk you through a personalized demo, and we have a $50 incentive, a $50 gift card incentive. So if you do complete that demo, we will send you money.
Yeah, and again, very high level stuff, but we're reach out to us, reach out to your partner that you work with. We work with all of them, and they'll be able to get you some more information as well. Take a deeper dive. All right, thank you.
Thank you.